Are you constantly scrolling through your Gmail trying to find things? Did you know that Gmail has a tool that can help you organize your email? This tool can save you a lot of time and effort, and it automatically runs even when you're not there. The tool is called Gmail Filters, and we'll talk about this today on Tuesday Tech Training. Hello, and welcome to Tuesday Tech Training. My name is Jennifer Stewart. My company is Gateway Productivity, and I'm a digital productivity trainer. Today, I'd like to show you how to use Gmail filters. For those who aren't familiar and didn't see our previous video about filters and rules, Gmail filters is a tool where you set up an if-then statement. If this, then that. If it comes from a certain email address, then put it in this folder, or in Gmail's case, a label. Or when a certain email comes in, just apply the label, but don't move it into the folder. There's lots of different options, but that's the general idea. It's when something comes in, you've set up criteria with Gmail that makes that email do something, whether it's getting put in a folder, whether it's having a label applied, or whether you're having it deleted. No matter what the criteria, you can have the email program, in this case Gmail, do it for you. This saves you a lot of time and effort and can make your inbox a lot more efficient because it has the more important things in it to begin with. If you have more questions about what filters are and how they benefit you, you can watch our previous video and I will put the link down in the notes below. Now I'll show you how to create a filter in Gmail. You can see here we're starting in the inbox. The easiest way, if this is going to be an email that you get regularly, I would start by opening one of those emails. So in this case, I'm going to want to filter all the emails that are coming from Google. So I'm going to click on this Google email, and then I'm going to go up to the 3 vertical dots and click on that. You can see from there that it says filter messages like these. That's what we want to do. At this point, Gmail automatically fills in the email address that the email came from. That's why I usually recommend starting a filter straight from the email itself, because it pulls in that relevant information that most people need. Because most of us want that email either to go into a folder or already have a label applied to it when it comes in, whatever that looks like for you. I would always start within the email. In this case, we're going to do a simple filter. If it comes from this email address, in this case, no reply at accounts.google.com, if it comes from that email address, then put it in the Google Emails folder that I have previously created. And in this case, if you're familiar with Gmail, you'll know that these are called labels. I'll use labels and folders interchangeably. They do slightly different things, and you can watch a previous video about what that is. But I will use labels and folders interchangeably just because that's the terminology I'm used to using. The folders to me are what's on the left-hand side, and then labels you can see when you're inside your inbox, and you'll see that in a moment. Gmail has already filled in the information I need. If it's coming from this email address, and I don't need any of the other information. A lot of my clients think they have to fill in all of the boxes, but you don't. In this case, you can skip all of the rest. I don't have any of the rest of this information that I need to fill in as far as a subject line or that it has certain words or the size or an attachment. All those different things are things that you can create filters with. In this case, we're going to do a very simple one. Gmail is creating the if this, then that statement. If it comes from this email address, which we are seeing right here, then do this step. And the then part of the statement is once you click a link here that says create filter. Now, before we leave, I'll explain the search. We'll just search for all of the things that match this criteria, all of the emails that are from that email address. We don't necessarily need it to do that piece. We want to go to the next part of the filter, which we do by clicking on create filter. That takes us to the then take this action part of the statement. So that's what we're looking at here. And at this point, I would recommend if you're trying to clean up your inbox, you'll always want to check this skip the inbox option. That's what I want to do in this case. I want these emails just to go into a folder, and that way I can choose the time that I check that later. So I'm going to choose to skip the inbox. And then you can see all of the other options that you have. You can have it automatically mark those as red. You can have it star those. In this case, we want to apply the label, which is also the folder on the left-hand side. And I'm going to choose the one that I set in advance that says Google Emails. You can also see if you forgot to create that label in advance, you can choose to create a new label at this point. But here we have Google Emails. And I also have the option to forward this email, delete it, never send it to spam. If you're having a problem where Google is automatically putting certain things into spam for you and you don't want it to, set up a filter and just have it never send to spam. You won't skip the inbox in that case, but then you can just say never send it to spam. And it should automatically override what Gmail or Google is trying to do in that case. You also have your options to mark it as important or not mark it as important. If you're using that system, those are the little things that look kind of like a tag maybe on, or just like a little arrow box that are on your inbox. If you're using that, this is where you can have it mark things as important or not important if it's not picking up the right things. And then also you have the option for categories. Another very important box is the last one here that says also apply this filter to the two matching conversations. And I do want to use this to kind of clean up my email. So I'm going to check that box. It does not automatically assume that you want that, so you will need to check that box each time. To move things that are from a specific email into a label folder, I am saying skip the inbox, apply the label, which is the folder, and then also I want this to apply to everything that matches right now in my inbox. And I'm going to create that filter. And then you can see it brings us back to where we were. So we were inside that email. But if I hit the back button, we can see that that Google email, this is a different one here, but that Google email has gone into our Google Emails folder. And you can see here, this one was from the no reply at accounts.google.com. Let's look at this one here. This comes from a completely different one, Google account no reply at google.com. You will have emails coming from multiple places. Some people have this with Facebook, with LinkedIn. You might even have it with something you get a newsletter for. You get multiple newsletters from that place. They may have different email addresses. Remember that your filter applies to the one email address you set it to. If I want this one to also go into that same folder, the Google Emails folder, I would need to set up another filter that works for this email address. Keep that in mind as you're going through. Don't let yourself get frustrated if you're seeing, well, it didn't work on this email and this email. Look at the email address to see if it matches. And if it does match what you set the filter up for, then you may need to look and see if something went wrong. But if it doesn't match, you'll see that this is just another email that's being sent from the same company, but they're using a different email address. Now let's talk about a situation that'll have a little more detail to it. Let's say that I have a newsletter coming from a friend of mine, but that person also sends me emails, but they send them from the same email address. So in this case, let's look at the things that I sent myself as Gateway Productivity. They're the same email address. They're coming from me at Gateway Productivity, but you can see one is a newsletter and one is actual information I need to have. Another example of this might be you receive a report from someone at work. And so the report comes in with the same title every time, but you also receive other emails from them that you'll need to see right away. But the reports are something maybe you could put into a folder. So this is how you would use this. You want to have it from the email address, but you also need to have the subject line. And so let's walk through this one. In this case, I want to filter the one that says newsletter. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to do the same steps we just did. Click on the 3 vertical dots and filter messages like these. Again, you can see it populates the from field right away with the email address of the email that I was inside of. And in this case, we also need to put the subject because I get important emails coming from this person, but I also get a newsletter. And this person always uses the word newsletter in their subject line. So we're going to add that as another criteria that Gmail is looking for when it runs this filter. So our if then statement, if it comes from Jennifer@gatewayproductivity.com and has the subject line newsletter, then we're going to set up the next half. Again, as a reminder, we're going to click on Create Filter. And here is where I'm using this filter to help clean up my inbox. So I'm going to have it skip the inbox. And then I'm also going to apply the label. And in this case, I have an interesting articles label that I'm going to put all my newsletters in. So I'm going to put that there. And in this case, it only found one matching conversation in my inbox, but I'm going to go ahead and check that so that it moves it over. And I think we're good to go. So you can see the if part of this had a little bit more. It had the subject line that we wanted to add a word that was in the subject line. But the second half, the then part of the statement, was very similar and pretty much exactly the same as what we did before. I'm going to click on Create Filter, and it will automatically put that email into the Interesting Articles folder, which is right here. And you can see, because of that extra piece that I put that the subject line said newsletter, it did not pull the other email that had important information that needed to come to me. This is something that one of my clients did. They set something up where all of their emails from their employees went into these folders, but then she forgot to check the folders and she wondered why she wasn't getting these emails. So think these things through before you create the filter. Take a step back, take a moment and think about, am I going to set up a time to check these folders? Am I going to put things in there that are important or not so important? And I recommend starting with the not so important things like articles and newsletters and ads and things like that. Have those go into the folders. And that way, if you miss it, it's not a big deal and it's not an employee's email that you are missing. Have you had a light bulb moment from this training? If so, please put a comment below and let me know what that was. Or if you have a question, also feel free to put that in the comments. You can also give the video a thumbs up or share it with someone you think could benefit from the information. And be sure to click the subscribe button. That's the red button below. What that does is give you a notification each Tuesday when a new video is posted. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.